Ah, there we go. It has come through, but I think it's tremendously latent. By my estimations, it is running about 2 minutes. 2 minutes late. But it is running. It's getting there. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think there's quite a latency. Which obviously means I have to communicate via the chat. So we'll see a bit of a technical hiccup to start with. I don't think this isn't a problem at my end. The Twitch is saying that I'm delivering the content at a good enough rate, but it just seems to be that the Twitch itself is a bit behind. We'll get some confirmation in a minute with people in the chat, perhaps. If necessary, I'll restart the stream and see what happens. So we've got Deadkind, hello. Berg12, hello. Sleeping Insomniac, hello. Peter Parker, hello. But the delay is about 2 seconds. Moscow-bish. Okay, well that's not too bad. Yeah, good. Okay, Slice, hello. Moscow, thank you for that. Good. We've got a bit of confusion because I started the stream, but nothing started coming through until about 2 minutes later. So I've no idea what's going to happen at the start of that one. So I'm going to have to repeat just in case it hasn't actually been captured or anything. Who knows? Format C 2013. So well, I will start again then. Why not? Because we've got some people here now, and it looks like everything's up and running and back to normal. Don't know what happened there, but if we're 2 minutes behind, just refresh your stream perhaps. Maybe that'll sort it out. Josh, hello. Alex, hello. So I'm doing the jam this week, and not Space Things, which means I've got a video here which is completely out of place. Because you don't know about anything that I've done. There's no sort of code that we can talk about in the past that I've worked on. It's just a bit of a strange one. Now, I'm okay taking part in the jam because, well, it's my jam, and I like to think it sets a nice example to everybody else to go and have a go at the jam. Oh, hello, we've got Null Alternative, hello. Boothroyd, hello, sir, from Yorkshire. Yorkshire? So yes, I've decided to have a go at my own jam. I can't win, but I've got limited time, so I'm only allowed sort of really 10, 15 hours to work on my entry, so I'm trying to hack through it as quickly as I can. But I did set myself some interesting goals. Now, the theme of the jam was the future, which I thought was quite a broad one. And I decided I wanted to do something where you had to sort of anticipate your future needs. And it's not really worked out that way. It's actually just become an interesting time killer because at the same time I wanted to create a bit of software that serves two purposes. The first is I'm spending a lot of my time at the moment basically with only one hand available. Now read into that what you will, but a lot of you will understand why. And that means I can really only use the mouse or a single hand on the keys. So I wanted to set myself a challenge. How do we actually create an interesting, compelling game with such a limitation on input? Hef, hello. Yusuf, hello. Densming, hello. So, because if you've got something big and clumsy in one hand, and you've only got the other hand to control it with, you want something that's not too fast, not too precise, that sort of thing, a bit lazy in a way. But also I'm finding myself at sort of 4 o'clock in the morning wanting to just pass the time for about an hour whilst somebody falls asleep. And so I wanted like a nice chilled out, relaxing, casual style game. And I think I've come up with sort of a good mix of both, although I don't know how well I'm sticking to the future theme. Blueprints. Don't know. Use speech recognition from Windows 7. It was perfect. Don't know. I think they're chatting in some of the stream. Right. I got a slurp of tea. You can tell it's all organised here at One Lone Coder Studios today. Right. So I will show you what I have created, and it's a bit more polished than what we'll see today. But it's also how far we've got. I'm just going to be adding stuff to it, really. I wanted to try and add sound, but that's probably not the best idea given the circumstances at the moment. So instead we may work on how do we sort of glue levels together. So let's take a look. So the premise of the game is quite a simple one. You control this thing here. You control it just with the mouse. So you've got to remember everything is entirely controllable with one hand. And it's called puck. The puck will sort of gravitate towards the mouse cursor. Now, I think there's some more mechanics to have some fun with this. I'd like it to somehow feel like it's attached to a rope and that you're swinging it around. At the moment, it doesn't. It just sort of accelerates towards where it needs to go. And the objective is, as you explore this labyrinth, I'll come back to these in a minute, you see these sort of tiles with light on them. And you've got to go and collect some light. So to collect the light, you just bump into it. Now, the puck has some interesting physics. It actually does have proper physics. So if I smash into the wall, you see there's a little bit of a rebound. There's a bounce. So it's actually it's a mixture of all of the different collision engines I've put in. Because I wanted it to be really robust and feel just right. But I think it needs to be a little snappier yet. But the idea is it's meant to be a little bit lazy to control. Now, once you've collected some light, you can use the light to paint the floor. So I've chosen my bright yellow light here. I can use the mouse wheel to choose a different colour if I picked up different colours. And I can press right click to start painting. And you see it goes bright like this. Now, the trick is, once you've started painting, you can't stop painting. And it's very nice. You just have to sort of slowly fill in the areas. Now, not every room will have the light associated with it in. This was a bit of a lucky start, I suppose. So in this respect, it's just sort of, it's time killing. It's just fun. It's relaxing. It looks quite pretty too, I think. Trying to go for all futuristic neon style colours. Now, you will stop painting when you either run out of light. In fact, my light meters aren't showing, so let me go and just enable my light meters here. Allow light meters. There we go. That was from the Discord stream last night. I had a no mic stream on the Discord. Let's try that again. Put some light meters on. Chrono GM finally caught live. Well, a bit of an odd one tonight. Yeah, Axeboy1. Yeah, it's a... Well, I do stream every Tuesday. That's better. I've got my light meters now. So now this is a bit more informative. I can pick up some light, and it tells you how much light you've collected. Let's go into a different section. Up here. Now, I've currently got hint mode enabled. So the rooms are sort of coloured with the... well, eventual colour that they should be. So I've picked up some yellow and some yellow up here. Let's go up here. And I'm going to start painting in here now. There we go. And we'll do some painting. And we're going to explore and sort of understand the world that we're in. Now, there's no sound yet, and that's kind of what I wanted to work on tonight, because I think part of it is actually having a really nice, chilled-out soundtrack and lots of delicate little sound effects to make it feel sort of even more relaxing. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, when I've got one arm basically to just kill some time with, then this is sort of what I intend to be doing. Just chilling out and filling in these lights. Now, obviously this isn't much of a game. At the moment it's basically a glorified art package. The game comes in that you don't necessarily, when you're not in hint mode like this, you don't necessarily know which sections to be filling with which colours. And also because you start painting, once you've started painting you can't stop painting. You've got to sort of anticipate what you need in the future regarding what colours and how much you have to find. I'm also going to put some Easter eggs and things in here too, I think. One of the things, other than it being an exercise in sort of game design for one-handed people, as it were, it's also for me been sort of pushing sort of the pixel game engine in doing non-pixel based things. So you'll actually see its lighting effects are accurate, everything's nice and smooth and filtered. In fact, we can zoom right in. and everything's sort of nice, high quality graphics instead. Now, one of the problems I've got with zooming, because I've still got lots of yellow paint to use up, let's carry on painting this area. So I can imagine going over each tile and it going ding, 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 ding. And I think there might be even a way to structure it to sort of play to the beat of a background track or something just really kind of relaxed and trancy. Whether we get that kind of far into it, I don't know, in the jam. I don't know how much time I'm going to have to do this. One of the things I wanted to get it to feel, though, was bright. So I really wanted the light to sort of pop out. So you can see we've got this subtle lighting effect. This is actually probably going to be the level we end up playing at, by the way, the zoom level. I'm still trying to figure that out. This light doesn't cast beyond the boundaries. So I really wanted it to pop and feel like it's really bright when you're exploring these spaces. Because I like games where you've got to explore. Now, we've moved into a different zone. These red squares mean light will stop painting. Now, clearly this one's meant to be magenta in the background. Now, I can paint it any colour I like, but I don't know necessarily how much paint of a particular light that I've got in order to fill in this area. So I have to try and understand and visualise the map before I start painting. It doesn't matter if I make mistakes, I can actually undo them. The point is it's just sort of a casual time killer. So this looks like a magenta, so let's select magenta. Now I've currently got zoom mapped onto colour select as well, so every time I select colours you'll see I'm also zooming at the same time. There we go. So this is using the additive blending modes of the Pixel game engine. A nice big area to fill in. I kind of want the physics to feel a little bit different to how they do at the moment, I think. Zoom out just a touch. There we go. I think that's better. That's probably like a nice, sensible playing zoom level. Now the regions will be scored, so if you just want to just paint light everywhere or just quickly race to the exit as fast as possible, that's fine. I will be putting sort of a timed dynamic to this as well, so you can try and be as accurate as possible, but just by getting to the exits. But also painting the rooms correctly will affect your ultimate score. And so it's quite important that you don't just end up with a mixture of spammed colours and pixels all over the place. But you can do that if you want. If you wanted to create interesting patterns, you can do that too. Don't know yet. Still mucking about with it. Yeah, the glow is nice, isn't it? It's a nice, it's nice and subtle, and you can see it's like illuminating my face now on the camera. Now I've got lots of pink light. So obviously I've got a big area to fill here. And part of the surprise is you don't necessarily know what the levels are going to be. So at the moment I'm filling in these areas, but they're not. You can see there's actually a little bit of a popping going on when the tiles are towards the edge of the screen. I think I need to draw one more round of tiles around the screen boundary. Yeah, a bit of an odd stream tonight for all those joining late. Currently it's the Code Jam going on, and I'm working on my entry rather than space thing. Also, we don't want to get lost, so I think we've filled that area now full pink, and we've filled this area full yellow. And let's go and have a look over here. Can't go that way. So getting lost is kind of a real possibility. Now here's a nice cyan area. Let's choose cyan and start splashing that down too. Now my plan is, and I've started working on it already, I've got a central hub world. The entire game user interface is also done in the game engine, so you sort of menus and things are going to be built into moving the puck to particular locations. So yes, you really only need one hand to play this at all. And by the time you've sort of zoomed around and zipped and zoomed all over the place and filled in your map, it'll zoom out and reveal sort of a bigger picture of what it is that you've been filling in and creating. And there's a fun element to that, I think. Motion blur and make the top view rotate pretty fast. When are you making the next jam? Well, the next jam will be this time next year. We only do them once a year. You can still enter this one, by the way. So collision is done on a circle, yes. It's not done on a gear on this. Oh yeah, the map's huge. So this one takes about, if you're really sort of going for it, it takes about 45 minutes to complete. But what's been fun is sort of doing all of the polish for it. So I'm going to set up the tutorial because that's what I was working on last night. Where's my thing? There we go. Let me just zoom out a tad there. It's a little bit big even for me there. Where have I got my mode? Current mode and current tutorial level. Tutorial stage. There we go. So I'm going to set that to 0. So we'll start at the beginning. And this has been fun for me because I've never really done a game with a built-in tutorial before. And that did actually change how I went about making the game engine. So I'm just going to pinch that pointer and I'm just going to set you up as being tutorial. So it knows that it's in a tutorial mode. And before you all start grumbling, no, I'm not using the state machines that I created in the last stream. So let's run that. So this is tutorial mode, I hope. And it was quite nice because I had to do it in. I want to do everything within the game engine itself. Oh, we've not got a background level. That's because I must be loading the wrong thing. Oh, that's interesting. We found a bug already. Map tutorial. That's all getting set up. Mode is in tutorial mode. What are we not displaying? Oh, ooh. I think it's rendering. Why is it? It's just going straight to the. Oh, it's the starting location. Oh dear. Yeah, I don't have this sort of meta information attached to the levels yet. So sorry if it's not like a normal stream. I am up against the clock in trying to sort of make all of this work. Whilst I'm talking to you guys, I'm also sort of programming the next bit in my head with where I'm going to be taking this. Let's put you at the start in the right location. There we go. I'll compile this up. There we go. So I wanted it to feel a bit polished and slick, so I've got this hello. Again, remember, everything is just entirely mouse-driven. Crazy Pumpkin, hello. And left-click to continue. So you'll notice like a subtle fade and a fade in again. Welcome to Fleur, that's a work-in-progress name. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that just yet. It says, meet Puck. So it tells you in a nice way how to sort of learn how to use the controls. Now, in the tutorial is structured in such a way that you have to do it in a particular order. You'll see I've got these red squares. They were just for me to shortcut some of the tutorial, so I didn't have to do this every time I was testing everything. So the first thing it's going to do is introduce you to how to move the character around. Then you enter here, and it triggers the next sequence of events. So introduce what is the concept of light. Yeah. So the next event for the tutorial was triggered when we accumulated the light, and that's when the light meters have started to appear as well. So basically, there's lots of sort of state machines going on in the background here, including a state machine of what's visible. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. That's why I'm a bit distracted. Excuse me, it gets up there with the name. To use light, right-click with the mouse button, but once you start using it... Oh, I'm going to sneeze again. Oh, dear me. Paint the world. So, now the next event requires you to use up the light that you've got. So, see, if we go down here, nothing has happened. It's a dead end. So, it's expecting me now to go and start painting this world. And you see, these are really nice because they actually look like light bulbs are behind the tiles. I still think this is a better sort of zoom level. Oh, dear me. Obviously, it's COVID. So you'll see my light meter depleting as I start using up all of this light. And once it's depleted, that's going to be the next event that triggers the next stage of the tutorial. See? You've used up all of your light. To fully illuminate this area, you need to go back and go, well, wherever we found the light before. So I've put this here just so I can shortcut these things and get there a bit quicker. And so we go back to the area we were in before. See, now it's triggered a different sequence. I don't recall seeing this here before. So I can dynamically sort of change the map. And that's something I might still add a bit more detail in. It might be interesting if the maps are sort of dynamic in a way. Don't worry. So the whole point of this is it stops you painting. It allows you to change colours between the two rooms. So we can collect some more light here. And we'll go up here and try and get the blue light. So see, here's a dead end, for example. But if we go and trigger this bit of the tutorial, different colour light, that's fine. Tells you that you can use the mouse wheel to scroll between light sources, and also that you can reclaim light as well. So if you do actually paint the wrong colour in an area, you can paint over it and you claim the original light back. But you see that tutorial changed the map up here and added more tutorial sort of sensitive regions to it. But what I don't have yet is actually any transition from one area to the next. So that's about as far as you can get. All the bless yous, thank you very much. Mr. CPP finally caught me on Twitch. Thank you for all the work on YouTube. You're welcome. I've had a little bit of a break this year from YouTube with things going on. But I did do it solidly for 4 years, and I will be coming back to it too. Starfree Clone, hello. Am I allergic to cats? Do you know what? Actually, I am allergic to cats, but I don't have a cat here. I don't see the point in cats. I know there's plenty of cat lovers, but they're not for me. Right, so that's the premise of the game. I think one of the things we'll try to do today is find a nice zoom level. So we may have to just display the zoom level and tweak that value until I'm happy with it. So yes, we'll do that. I'll map the zoom levels to the Q&A keys and display it on the screen so we can get that sort of debug information. I think it also might be useful to start getting other debug information as well, such as the player's position within the world. Now, one of the questions you're probably thinking is, well, how do we make the worlds? Well, I'm just cheating. I'm using an art package. So this is the hub world here, and the level we were doing before, if you didn't guess already, was this one. And so it's just a PNG file with different color codes that mean different things. This makes it very easy to edit, so I can sort of create the pixel background, and I can create the vortex areas, and I can change all of this in code too, depending on what happens. So there's another dynamic to that. I need to explore it a little bit more. So creating the levels is very simple too. Little break control. Yeah, obviously I've had some personal circumstances have changed and just needed to do something else for a few months really. Although we're still very active on the Discord server and still doing silly things like this stream, so very much One Lone Code is still going. I just don't have the time to make the videos at the moment. The colours probably indicate the colours that are supposed to go there. Yeah, that's right. So the tinted cells that you see in the background are the colours that were selected in the art editor. So we can go back to the... if we can load up the tutorial stage. Open recent tutorial. Right, so this is the tutorial stage. And yes, you're quite right. So I can specify a colour and it changes the tint of that cell in the background. And the nice thing is this is just a PNG file, and the levels as they're loaded get calculated based on paint density and that sort of thing, and then it creates distributions of where the paint needs to be appropriately. It's all automated, so I can just create these images and throw them into the game, and they're just going to work. But they do need a little bit of man handling, such as starting point position. I've got an ending point position, which is this dark blue pixel. but starting position isn't as defined, and that's because I think I'm going to have it that this is really just the start and end. Unsure yet. I'm still making some of these things up. Yeah, the game does automatically generate the correct number of pickups for the number of cells on the floor. If I can show you the code for this, let's have a look at some code. Where's my code? Code. So when you load a map, it really is just a bitmap image. And we'll have a quick glance at some of this. So ignore this no paint argument for now. So I have a map type. Everything is in my namespace future, which is the theme of the jam. I'm just passing in a pointer to a sprite. I create a vector of cells. Now the cells are the individual tiles that you're seeing in the background based on the size of that sprite. And then I kind of cheat. So I use an unordered map structure to basically count the number of pixels. I don't know how many different shades of pixel I'm going to find in there. So I just bang them all in a map, and when I find that pixel, I increase the count. So this is probably a gross gross use of resources, but it makes the code very simple. In a jam, it's about doing things as quickly as possible. Now, certain colors in my images have specific meanings. Zoom out a tad there. So now iterate through all of the pixels in the map, and I grab its color and I actually set the hint shade, which is what is used to shade the decal later on. If the pixel is blank, then it doesn't exist. So there's nothing there. If it's black, it's a boundary. If it's red, it's a vortex, one of those gates. And if it's blue, it's some sort of transition exit point, something like that. Okay, I've just got a ping. I'm just going to make sure I'm not required elsewhere. No, it's okay. So what I do is I go through all this, and I basically just use the pixel itself as a key in my key value pair into my map. So I can take the pixel value and use that as an index into my map and increment it. It's a nice way of just counting all of the unique individual colours. I need this information because then I've got to go and distribute the light around the map. To do that, I did have to do a little bit of trickery with... let's see, where did I put it? This in this one. Yeah, I had to do a little bit of trickery with creating my own hashing function for pixel. Now, pixel to anything and anything other than the standard library would see is just an integer, but it needed this guff to sort of make it understand it's an integer. But anyway, that's what you need to do. So if you're using a map with sort of custom data types, you have to provide a way of hashing that data type too. There's usually always something that's approximate, but you have to do it properly. And we'll go back to go back to the map now. Because once I've now got a map of all of the different colours, and there'll only be 4 or 5 colours on the map. That's the sort of art style I'm going for. Once I've got those 4 or 5 colours, I then create some structures which represent now more amenable structures than the map. So I want an indexable form to store this data. So that's why I'm using a vector now. So having the map is great, but actually I'd rather just store the indices now in that map. So, for example, 0 could be yellow pixels, 1 could be green pixels, 2 could be cyan pixels, etc. And I go and create these 2 maps. And this is also where I'm creating how many pixels in total are valid, because I don't want to include in my distribution of pixels all of the boundary pixels, the vortex pixels, the exit pixels, that sort of thing. And then I go and do the distribution, and it's a brute force distribution. For all of the shades used in that particular map, I sit and wait in a loop, slowly nibbling away at the number of pixels of a particular shade. So I choose how much to reduce it by, which is this reduce value here. That's a random number. So any light that you pick up on the map, the maximum number of tiles that light can fill in is 150. I have to use a standard minimum here because ultimately it's going to... I can't put more paint on the map than there are cells that are appropriate for it. That would sort of ruin one of the gameplay dynamics I've got in mind. And then I simply find a spot on the map that's valid for me to put that paint. I can't already contain paint, and it's got to be basically an empty cell on the map. When I get there, I just force that particular cell to have a paint value, which tells me what colour paint in my vector of paint shades is there. and how many tiles does that paint fulfill. Then I just reduce that number and repeat, and I repeat all of this, and you can see there's no loading time. It happens all very quickly. Simple stuff, simple stuff. Once I've got my map, I've got some getters and setters as well. Nothing too big going on in there. The game itself is actually quite a simple bit of code. I've got in my onUserCreate function, I'm just creating some very simple renderables, which load the graphics that are there. The lighting graphics are really just tricks with how we blend stuff in the Pixel game engine. So it looks like it's nicely lit and glowing and all that stuff, but it's really just smoke and mirrors. Then I load my maps. Now I'm sort of doing this roundabout way of loading them yet. I'm still not sure if that's actually how it's going to be in the final version. I've got some junk code from Cube that we had rotating on some other stream. And then the one map that I do need to do some sort of manual messing about with is this tutorial map. Because the tutorial map needs to have things set up in a specific way. At the moment, when I load the maps, everything happens randomly where stuff happens. That's no good for the tutorial. The tutorial is actually constructed. And here we've got the text for the tutorial, which is sensitive to different situations and displays the appropriate set of text. I had to create my own display text function because one of the problems with the Pixel Game Engine's draw string decal is it won't do centered justification. But I thought that looked a little bit more attractive. So if I just run this again, now you'll have noticed that the text that's being displayed, even though these are multi-line strings here, it's all centered. So I had to recreate the drawing algorithm for the decals to do just that. You'd have been tempted to use pixel shaders for the glow effect. You're going to think, what did we do before we had pixel shaders? Yeah, it's not the daft way to do it. Maybe I'm doing it the daft way by limiting myself to this particular tool. If I didn't choose to use the Pixel Game Engine, I could perhaps open up more doors. But the fact is, I think it's a great tool for jamming because I know it inside out, and it's very good at doing what it does, and that's simply getting graphics on the screen. And it'll also compile to in Scripton as well, which I think is very important for jams. In terms of control, what's going on here, forget all of the level stuff. When the text is being displayed, there's certain things you can and can't do. So I do not want to allow the user to carry on with control, or I don't want the physics to update. And actually, it's the physics that take up the bulk of the code for everything that's going on. The code here is actually stolen from lots of different videos I've done for the YouTube channel. It's sort of all been merged into one. And I might actually release this as part of a simple PegX for handling tiled worlds. There's lots of stuff going on with tiled transform view. It's just a convenient thing to have. I think it's also useful to have this sort of collision detection wrapped up as well. This one's reliable too. This is actually, I think, reasonably bulletproof, this collision detection. So there's actually quite a bit of physics. So the first thing that's going on is we actually update the kinematics of the puck. But then we need to do some collision detection with what's going on in the world. So I grab the cells that surround the puck. Now this is the same sort of collision detection from the networking MMO, but what I didn't do in the networking MMO was actually resolve the collisions, nor did I test for the collisions in the correct order. So the first set of, this is just a 3x3 loop, even though it looks really messy. So you see this is a cut and paste, thanks to Danderstein there, from Raycast World, which was a cut and paste from some other video. And I iterate through all of those and work out which cells am I going to be colliding with, and then this is what you should do, because a lot of people pulled out on the MMO videos, if you push yourself into the cells, you sort of crawl along them slightly. That's because they're not sorted in terms of distance for collision. So then I perform a quick sort to sort all of that out, really put them in the right order, and then I do the static resolution. So all of this so far is just to detect, have I actually collided with a particular cell and where? Then I basically do the same again now, but I only need to do it on cells that, firstly, I know that I'm going to collide with, but secondly, ones that I can resolve statically. Once I've got the static collision, I can then go and quickly work out the dynamic resolution as well. Which is directly from the balls video. Just total cut and paste jobs. So what you should do in a jam is use what you know. So you see that actually quite a lot of physics goes into moving the puck around. And you might think, well, all you needed was an acceleration of velocity vector, but when you want the collision detection to actually work and work reliably and feel good and sort of bounce off the corners of the tiles properly as a circle would bounce off the edge of a square, it actually gets a little bit more involved. Is it feasible to create a 3D software render from scratch using the Pixel game engine? Well, tell you something. Let's have a look. We go into... I need to find the pins. Where are the pins gone? Pins. Let me pull up a browser window. And if I go to community, OneLoad Coder, there we go. Well, this is a full 3D software rasterizer. I've forgotten what the keys are. What we've got up and down, written in the Pixel game engine and then compiled into Scripting. In fact, you can go to this URL and try it for yourself. I will paste this in the chat. So you can go and give that a whirl. The level is Spyro the Dragon, level 1. It's quite interesting actually seeing the level construction when you go start playing. When you see bits of the level you don't get to see necessarily at the beginning and realise there's actually nothing there. So in the game, you sort of unlock the ability to open this dragon's mouth. And of course, there's a hidden gate inside. It's interesting to see which bits are part of the static level structure and not. The glitching you'll see is actually explained in part 4 of the video series. That's not an issue necessarily with the rendering. It is an issue with the texture supplied for this particular model. It's probably resolvable as well, and we've debated if it's resolvable. Anyway, in Scriptum, running, yes, 3D. Even more fun is doing it in the command prompt. Yeah, we did it in the command prompt as well. Just for kicks, why not? So all of this should be compilable for Scriptum as well, which is one of the nice things. I think that's good for a jam entry. Right, the actual game logic consists of, well, pretty much nothing. I've got key mapping and mouse mapping, just in case, because key mappings can make things a bit easier to debug. But I think for the final release, I'll ditch the key mappings and just have it purely mouse-based. I've been sort of tempted to go down maybe some on-screen buttons, perhaps, so it's then compatible on mobile devices as well through Scriptum, but I don't know yet. But the actual game logic is trivial, as you might imagine, for a game where you're just filling in squares. So I have to check these messages. Oof, I might have to change a nappy later. Look forward to that then. So the actual game logic is trivial. If you go over a cell that doesn't contain paint, then put some paint there if you're in paint mode. If there is already paint there and you're in paint mode, then collect the paint that's already there. And I've got these events because I wanted to sort of add some flair to things. So at the moment it's all very sort of static, tiles getting coloured in. It could be a little bit more dynamic. And I also want to play sounds. I'm really keen on getting the sounds sort of side of things sorted out for this. Drawing the world is super trivial too. I'm using a tile transform view, which is an extension of the Pixel game engine, and I just specify, using that tile transform view, I can extract which cells are visible for any given camera position. The camera is really just the puck's position in the world. The cells had a state, if you recall, and that determines how they are drawn. Now, I don't have sort of a draw cell function in the cell because in a jam, and I like, as you all know from the channel, I actually like coding in just one big file. I find it quicker to sort of go from one part of a file to another rather than jumping backwards and forward. So I wanted to keep all of the drawing code in one place, keep it simple, just make it work. So if the cell is empty, we draw a particular decal which shows sort of that empty square with a bit of a tinting to it. If it's painted, it's shown again with additive mode. It makes it really bright and illuminated. Vortex just chooses the correct decal. And that's it. Now the only thing that's a bit strange, I suppose, is this occlusion of light at the boundaries. So anything that's a boundary in the world The boundary in the world are these black squares. I don't want the light to sort of propagate. I want it to feel as if, well, that's actually a wall. So previously, if I go back here, I'll load up, where's my open recent? If I go to tile glow, this is a tile that's painted. So if I, oh, hang on. Starfit Clone just subscribed via Twitch. Thank you very much. It's very kind. If I have missed some events, it's because I've obviously not got my speakers on at the moment. So I do apologise. Oh, but thank you for that, Starfit. That's much appreciated. What am I looking to do? So if I bring in the background here, so this is actually a tile painted in my world. Now I don't render it with this black background, but I've just put the black background here for you to see. It's easier to see what's going on. And if I turn the grid off, grid and axis manager, view grid, show grid. If I turn that off, what you can actually see here is it's a solid coloured tile with a subtle boundary. And it's these sort of things that just make things a little bit soft, a little bit nice, a little bit happy. There's like a glowing effect. This is white on black, which when you do additive combination of the two will add to whatever's already there, and it gives it this sort of lifting effect to make it look like it's illuminated. Add explosions. Hey chat, if you have a girlfriend that is not your hand, write F in the chat. Oh dear me. Are you feeling all alone there? Oh, that's the glow. A decal tinted to match the tile. Yeah, it's very, very simple. And it works quite well. I was possibly thinking of animating this slightly as well. But I think it works quite nicely. So let's go back to I think it's the tutorial level. And now that you've seen sort of the tricks of how to do these things, the magic disappears a little bit. That's the only downside. Let's go and collect some light. So I've put in these shortcuts just so I can get to those locations quickly. And we'll have a look at how it's set up. So the cog itself is really just a high resolution sprite. Again, it's got a little bit of a glow, so it kind of looks like it's blurred and it's casting its own light. The empty decals in the background. There's one other thing I didn't mention. I'll show you that in a minute. I've stolen a trick from Space Thing, and what I've chosen is everything is filtered. So everything is smooth. There's no sort of pixel transitions anywhere. And that adds to sort of the sharpness as well, particularly in high contrast areas. So let's go and find the light. So we'll just skip through this bit. This I found was frustrating when creating the tutorials. You basically just have to keep doing the tutorial yourself 100 times. Right, so this is a light tile. Again, this is just a decal. So all of the tiles, even though the one sort of tile is obvious what is a tile, the tile sprite itself is actually a 3x3 tile. So they can blend and interact with the neighbours. And this leads to some interesting effects. And we can see that here. Now let's zoom right in. So now I've got the ability to paint. Let's paint one tile if I can. There is some friction, by the way, so you do actually stop moving. Right, so that's painted my one tile. You can see it's got this subtle boundary now, which is just blurring nicely, and you get that sort of subtle glow. The glow doesn't just blend with alpha in the background, it lifts. So that's why it gets this sort of, it feels like it's actually casting light. Now I've moved into the neighbouring cell. Now both of these are now doing exactly the same thing, but their light is combining. So at this edge here, you see it's really lit up. It's gone very, very bright. And this here, it's done it the same, but we draw over it with a black square to stop the light from propagating any further. So if I go back over this side, dink, and that gives you this nice sort of cellular pattern. I was unsure about it at first, and there are certain colours which obviously work better than others. This particular light, even though it looks bright, this cream colour, takes a few goes before it saturates. Whereas things like the yellows and the magentas, they saturate very quickly, of course, because they already are full 255 values somewhere in the colour code. So there we can see we've done three sides of the central cell. Let's go down here. And you can see the blending now from all of these neighbouring cells. That's that little glitch I was saying. It's not rendering the top cell properly. We'll fix that actually. You can see it sort of doesn't fill in the middle. So that's because the neighbouring glows don't reach the middle of that particular tile. And that gives you, on the whole, this sort of nice like LED effect, which I quite like. But what was that glitch I was just talking about? Well, if a tile goes slightly off the screen, it doesn't cast anymore. And that's very noticeable on tile boundaries. So you can see this at the bottom of the screen here. This one in the middle. Watch it sort of pop into existence. See? Clunk. And that's because it needs to draw the tiles that aren't on the screen. So the tile transform view is doing its job. It's saying only draw what you can see. But actually I do need it to draw that additional boundary because I'm relying on that additional set of cells to blend into this one. So maybe we can sort that out. It's a really satisfying glow, isn't it, Hef? Yeah, I agree. And these are simple. You know, there's nothing sort of groundbreaking. It's very simple tricks. And one of the things that I think takes a bit of time, and certainly in my experience here, is finding colours that work. And not. It's very tempting to think, oh, let's just go really insane with it all and have mega glows on everything. And quickly it just becomes this big saturated mess. So a lot of time on Sunday, was spent sort of just subtly choosing the right level of glows for things to look about right. But what I think would be really nice is that if we also had some little dancing particles or something like just some little sparkles or something like that. And I need to think of a way to efficiently do that. You don't want to just cover the whole screen in more particles. But it does work quite nicely. We did cover in Space Thing if you do want to use unfiltered. If you do want to use filtered sprites, it's actually very easy. When you're loading a image in Pixel Game Engine, here we go. So renderable or a sprite or whatever. There's always an argument, which is there's always two arguments actually. There's a filter here, which if you set that to true, makes it it's bilinearly filtered, and if you choose clamp, when it's sampled, it means it never sort of goes periodic, which is typically what you always want. So there are situations where you may want to sample above the pixel, so outside of the sprite itself. This will make sure it doesn't go periodic. It turns bloom setting up to 200%. Yeah, it's nice, right? Kankit, hello. So that's what I've been working on. There was some of you may have noticed there's code in here which shouldn't be here, which is this sort of a little rotating cube. Now I don't know, did we actually never talk about this? When I was toying with ideas for the jam, I thought, well, maybe it would be nice to have certain things sort of stand out a little bit more. And I was wondering, is it possible to do proper 3D graphics without resorting to software rasterizers, but just by using clever manipulation of decals? And it turns out it is. Right, so this is just a cube rendering on the screen. It has no sort of interactive properties at the moment. But what we actually see here are decals using the decal, draw explicit decal and draw polygon decal to give us the illusion of 3D graphics. It's got some limitations though, so it has no Z buffer because decals are all 2D, there's no need for it, and so I need to think about a solution for that, because I think this in itself would make a nice little extension for those that just want to get a quick 3D model up without needing to resort to shaders or anything like that. And it's handy for, maybe some sort of the pickups could have been this 3D graphic, and we could easily change the shading to give you sort of surface shadowing and that sort of thing. So this is it's a little trinket. It doesn't do anything sensible, but it was just to quickly look to see could we manipulate the decal rendering technique to give us full 3D graphics, and the answer is yes, you can. And it actually is almost a cut and paste of this 3D series part 1. Except the differences I needed to provide, well, one major difference I've provided is I have a hidden one-line coder maths file here, which contains some more complicated maths functions, so sort of a 3D vector and a 4D vector type, and the matrix operation equivalence. Which is convenient, so I might release that too at some point. This is all gluing together for one bigger picture, which hopefully by Christmas there might be a nice significant update of the Pixel game engine and its capabilities. I hope so anyway. What about RTX though? Well, it looks fun, but smaller maps are probably a better idea, or a bigger pain area, a bigger paint area. It depends. When I was trying this out, I had the right soundtrack on in the background, and I was just quite happily just really trying to fill in every cell as efficiently as possible. Not quite, Alex. No, you're not quite. It's not going full 3D, unfortunately. I just found it reasonably soothing to try and fill. It's like colouring in, right? If you're of a certain age, colouring in suddenly has some appeal again. It was quite nice to sort of have this thing sort of gently bouncing around and just seeing, just killing time. That was the whole purpose of it, was how do I kill time easily with one hand? Be careful where we go with that one. Will people be able to submit maps? I wasn't planning on, no, because I kind of wanted it to... There's going to be a bit of a plot as well. So maybe obviously I'll open source this at some point. Creating your own maps for it would be very simple. It might be something to, if we ever integrate like a web API, and I know Morris and Danderstein and Megetsub, I think, and Alex as well, have been sort of playing around with an extension which allows you to connect Pixel Game Engine to web services, which is useful for leaderboards and that sort of thing. Potentially with that sort of technology, we could have it. You could download your own maps. Don't know if it's where I want to go with it yet, though. We'll see. Right, so I wanted to just quickly, since we've got to do some code today, I'm going to quickly just have a look at making the zoom manual, and then once I've got a manual zoom, choosing a suitable zoom value and sort of fixing it at it. My intention is that once you've completed certain areas of the game, it'll automatically zoom out, let you see what you've created, and then zoom back in. So it should all be a nice, fluid, smooth experience. That's what I'm going for. So right now, handle pan and zoom. I've disabled panning. This was a function that we created for Space Thing to sort of wrap up all of that in one place. But I've enabled zooming. So I want to also now add in, instead, the ability to zoom with some keys. And I think the keys we will use whilst we're debugging will be R and F. I have to remember how to do zooming. Get key, C, key, R. Be held. So if we've got that, we're going to zoom in. View dot. Zoom at set zoom. Is that useful? Set zoom at a particular location. Ooh, it's complicated. Handle panels. Let's just see what that one's actually doing. Go to peak definition. So set zoom is zoom at screen position, wherever the mouse is. I guess that's actually going to be wherever our camera is. And I guess I want to do the same sort of thing, don't I? Okay, right. So zoom at screen pos, and we'll just bias that one slightly forwards, and MV camera. And we'll do for F, go the other way, slightly zoom out maybe. Let's just see if that's functional. Oh, we've still got our cube. Okay. Yeah, good. Oh, got an interesting pixel up there that I hadn't seen before. Good. Okay, so that zooms and it follows the puck. So that's a nice manual zoom. So let's actually get rid of the cube and display the manual zoom value. So we'll just get rid of the cube for now. I'm not erasing this code because it's just convenient code to have. I think I will make a quick demo of that because I think people actually quite like to do it. The wireframe mode is also particularly fun to use for the graphics there. If you alert the zoom with an easing function, it will be really smooth. Yeah, it's kind of smooth now, right? I think I understand what you're saying. So when it goes automated, if we actually did a nice timed zoom, that's how it should be. Right, what am I doing? I want to display the zoom, so I just need a debug stuff, really. What's this doing? Fill rect decal. Oh, that's what that white cell was. Huh, that must have been some debug cell from, well, 100 years ago, it would seem. I mean, 3 days. So, let's draw... we will carry on drawing with decals, actually. Draw string decal. And we'll have it as a bit of a debug file at the top. So, draw at 10. We'll set a zoom level. Plus... Ooh, actually I don't have the current zoom level. How do I get that information? Is it get world scale? Dot str, because that's a vector. No, that'd be interesting to see what it actually displays. I think that's all I need. Let's try that. Come on. Okay, so that's the actual in-game zoom level. I'll click that. That is actually, I suppose that's the scale factor I would specify. So if I press R, that gets larger, so everything gets bigger. F, everything gets smaller. We've got rid of that tile now that was at the top. That's good. I like tile transform view. The transform view PegX, I think, is probably the second most useful contribution I've made to the entire Pixel game engine output. I think that I'm using it in absolutely everything at the moment, and so much so that looking back, it should have been core. Should have been part of the main engine to have the ability to do these transforms. And maybe that's what we'll do for Pixel Game Engine 3. I think Pixel Game Engine 3 is probably going to be a slight refresh on some of the interface. Yeah, I think so. Zoom out. Yeah, we definitely need some sound effects. It's going to be cool. The little cog as the main character is pretty charming. it's because the it's because the art software that I use has a cog drawing tool. What is number one? No, not necessarily decals. I think decals they're fun, and they do allow you to render a lot more. But the Pixel Game Engine wasn't a slouch without decals. Decals have allowed people to sort of take it to this next level, but in terms of actual functionality, it would have been really useful to do things like the pathfinding videos with panning and zooming built in. And I was thinking when I did the pan and zoom video for the console game engine, that was the time to integrate pan and zoom into the architecture. Because I quite like the idea of having the ability to sort of push and pop transform levels too, so you can have transforms nested within other transforms. That can be quite useful. Might go crazy and move PGE3 to Rust, or Rust will be dead by the time I get around to doing PGE3. And on that happy note, I think that's probably the end of today's stream. Is it not already? Yeah, probably. I think so. You know, one thing I've noticed now is you don't tend to notice the Rust fans banging on about Rust. I've become immune to it. Right, so a bit of an odd one today. Thank you, guys. It's really sort of jam time. If you are doing a jam, I think there's actually been a number of submissions already. So if we go and have a look, what are we on? Itch, Code Jam. So there's been 5 submissions already. Okay, Travelers. Macy, John314, the Geeky Genius, Bucket Man, Mega Rev. And no, I don't recognise that one. Is that potentially a spam entry? Maybe. Don't know yet. It's always worth looking at the game page, just to make sure. When you find out that the game has been submitted to basically everything that's going on, and definitely hasn't probably been thought with the theme in touch. Hey, you never know. It looks like it's somebody's pet project anyway. Yeah, the submission should be very good. I'm pleased that there's been quite a lot of entries this time around. Well, a lot of people potential entries. I suspect if we get maybe 40 to 50 entries this year, I think on the whole, on the chat that I've seen, people have been struggling with the theme, which I've been surprised about. I thought the theme was a particularly easy one. But I think people don't want to just do something really obvious with it. Megarevs is looking really interesting. Megarev's one of those coders. I remember when he joined the server and sort of, at the time, didn't particularly know his ass from his elbow. It's a British expression. But you've watched sort of develop and actually become a very competent programmer and problem solver, and as an all-round helpful, nice guy. So thoroughly looking forward to giving these ones a try. And we'll have a stream where I'm going to be trying some of these out on stream too, as well. So yeah, I'd definitely start to check out some of these. Anyway, yes, okay, I wish I had more time to the jam. I think we all do. The jam does end on Sunday. I'm not anticipating any extra time for it. So, thank you for the subscriptions. Thank you for the follows. And I'm going to call it quits there, I think. So, good luck with the jam. I might be streaming again on Friday, and definitely probably one time over the weekend. Again, it'll be CodeJam related stuff. So I'll see you then. Take care. Bye bye.